Welcome all to another Artificial Intelligence and Healthcare podcast episode. I am your host, Matt Kjin, Segment Development Manager for Healthcare here at Access Americas, and I am joined again by Mr. Steven Jussaume, Solutions Engineer. Steve, just in case somebody's listening for the first time and they weren't able to catch your other episode with us, do you mind explaining to the audience a little bit about what you do at Access?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me back, Matt. Appreciate it. Love being here. So again, my name's Steven Jussaume. I'm a solutions engineer here at Access, and really my job is to act as a subject matter expert on a few particular technologies and products that we have, and be a product liaison from our product management team in Sweden to the marketplace here in the United States.
Yeah, and you get to play with Legos all day.
I get to play with a lot of technology. It makes it fun.
Yeah, it does. That's good. No, that's what it's supposed to be. So that's really good. So for those of you that are joining the podcast series for the first time in this episode, in general, what we're trying to do with this series is to have expanded dialogue on the use of artificial intelligence technologies that commonly find a home in the healthcare industry. I really do believe having more conversations around the use of the technology in a functional application really lend itself to building a better overall program when you're going to utilize any sort of AI technology. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about a few things, but I think people are seeing some cameras here, probably. Yeah, we got a few, not all, but a few of the cameras. We're going to be talking about license plate recognition. And if you recall, on the last episode we had you on, we promised people we'd bring you back.
Yeah, what took so long?
Well, you're a busy man.
That's true.
Yeah, it's not me, it's you. No. So, but no, what we're going to be talking about is specifically within license plate recognition. This is a AI model that is not necessarily new by any stretch of the imagination, but it's really finding a home in the healthcare industry. Mm-hmm. And it's not just always from a security application. Sometimes it can be from like an access control application. Mm-hmm. We've been seeing a lot of like longer term care facilities or aging care facilities that are opting in for this smart home look and feel, where they're having garage doors open off a license plate pop from a resident, or we're seeing from a physician's perspective, where they have a very specific parking area. It's under, it's very protected. They're having it where the vehicle then is opened, the door is open from the vehicle's license plate. And then there's, of course, the security benefits from it. And I think for us to tackle the topic in a pragmatic way, we really need to define and kind of help people understand what is the difference between license plate recognition and license plate capture, because I hear them used interchangeably all the time, and I don't think that 99% of the population that are using these terms really understand the difference. So can you walk us through what those differences are? Yeah,
sure, definitely. So it really comes back to what is the need of the end customer? What are they actually trying to accomplish for whatever workflow they're trying to accomplish? And there are some customers that they just want to be able to see a license plate. Mm-hmm. So when they go back and they're playing back footage, depending on whatever the use case is, they just want to be able to go back and actually see a license plate no matter what time of the day, night, lighting conditions are. Yeah. So for years, I've always asked that question when I'm talking to these end users, which is really, what is your goal here? And some of the times they say, I just want to be able to see a license plate. That's really kind of license plate capture. Mm-hmm. You're just being able to see a license plate. So you need to be able to have particular cameras that have that type of capability. Then you have what we refer to as object character recognition or license plate recognition. That's using an AI model to actually read the characters on the license plate and then send that data to wherever it's being sent to, some sort of database. But I really want to push the topic of LPRs becoming more of like a general term.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
We say LPR, and the first question I always ask is, what are you trying to do? Because when we say LPR today, we're here to talk about AI. Mm-hmm. We talk about LPR. A lot of these different types of end customers are actually expecting a lot more now. It's not just license plate recognition, being able to actually read the letters, read the numbers. It's, hey, I want to be able to get the make of the vehicle, the color of the vehicle, the model. Mm-hmm. Then they want to use it in post. They want to be able to do some sort of AI forensic search on that type of vehicle, depending upon the data they have. And then to cap that off, it's how does that fit into your workflow and your solution itself? So you brought it up earlier. You have different ways you can use it, from security applications to parking applications to visitor management. what are we trying to do here? So that's where it's always let's work with these end customers, figure out what their actual workflow that they're trying to accomplish is.
And let's talk about that. So I think a lot of times too, with us being more on the hardware side as well too, it kind of blends a role with the software and what the features are in, like kind of where does the intelligence reside. And in general, I think when people are utilizing a system, they're interacting with the software, understanding the software, what it can and cannot do. But what they may not be realizing, or they may not see as a possibility potentially, is the use of this type of data that's typically formed in a form of metadata that is generated from these when you said OCR, so the character recognition aspect of it. Where does that data go? So I've seen it where they're utilizing a separate system for just license plate recognition and some sort of like watch list or what have you, whatever the workflow ends up being. Or some sort of automation. And then there's another side where like, hey, this is coming into some sort of alert communication software within an organization, specifically. Like we typically see these in hospitals.
Yeah.
Walk me through where some of the software, as far as like data ingestions from a flat topology perspective go. Where are people finding like the most value?
I mean, I don't want to say where people are finding the most value, because it goes back to so many people are using license plate data in just various different ways, and it's a very widely used technology. So from the healthcare perspective, what we're seeing is a lot of more of the security end, and that's to assist the healthcare organization when it comes to patient and employee safety. So that data, as you talked about, where does that data go? Usually there is some sort of database, some sort of list management. And that could be in whatever software they're using. There may be a plugin in that video management software that's in the Security Operations Center. Or maybe it's a completely different or separate solo solution.
Sure.
So you create hot lists, block lists, maybe important customer lists. And that data that is being generated is then sent to those lists. So if we just look at it from the healthcare perspective, from the security perspective, maybe you have a disgruntled patient. And when they come on the property, you need to know when they come on the property. So their license plate gets entered. Maybe it's one of your employees that is having a particular family issue. And when their spouse comes on campus, you need to be notified. There's so many ways to provide. Unfortunately, it happens.
Yeah,
but there's so many ways to utilize that LPR technology to enhance the safety on campus, especially when you can share it amongst multiple facilities.
Yeah, and I want you to unpack it just a little bit more too, because I really like what you said there too, where it doesn't always matter if it has to be separate or integrated. It's really about like workflow. So like when you're talking, like imagine we actually have an SOC. Some organizations do, some don't. Some buildings don't. Some buildings do. You see these operators and these officers utilizing this system. Like, are you seeing one used more than the other, where standalone versus integrated, or what are you seeing?
It really depends on what the needs are of the customer. So we're seeing a blend. There are great solutions out there that are all-in-one, that are cloud-based.
Yeah.
There are great solutions that are integrated. What we're hearing from the market, though, is that people are moving more towards wanting to have it all integrated in one pane of glass.
Sure.
A lot of agencies, a lot of healthcare institutions, especially the larger ones, they're standing up their own security operations centers, just like a real-time crime center in law enforcement, but on the healthcare side, because you have some very large healthcare organizations that have multiple buildings across the state, across a geographical area, and they need to be able to share that information across those sites. Because maybe you have one person that is, we're filming this in Chelmsford. So, there may be a healthcare institution in Boston, but they may have a facility in New Hampshire. And you may have someone that is a disgruntled patient that shows up in Boston, but hey, all of a sudden they show up in New Hampshire. That facility needs to know.
Yeah.
So there's so many ways that it could be utilized, but to directly answer your question, we're seeing a lot of security operations centers being stood up to receive and manage that data accordingly.
That makes perfect sense to me, because like these systems get big. They really do get big. And you touched on something too about watch list sharing.
Yeah.
And now this is a controversial subject.
Why do you say that?
Why do I say that? Too many customer questions we get about watch list sharing. So when it's specific to watch list sharing, what are some of the best practices that you would recommend to something? And again, not legal advice, or anything like that, but like from a hospital's perspective, I think it's pretty simple when it's your same company. Also, state AHJ's authority having jurisdiction need to be considered if you're going cross-state bounds, because some states have rules, others don't. It kind of depends on, again, the workflow. But when it comes to watch list sharing, what are you recommending to people?
Again, I go back to what is the end customer's needs? What type of systems do they have in place? That's really going to depend. That's actually what's going to answer that question is what type of list can they set up? So when it comes to watch lists, there's, you can look at it from the law enforcement side. Many healthcare institutions across the United States actually have sworn law enforcement agencies that are a part of their healthcare organization.
Yeah, especially universities.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you have that, then that agency may have the ability to have access to an NCIC list. Now, that's a criminal justice database that someone has to subscribe to. It's a watch list, but you have to have authorization to access it. So that's one level of a watch list. But then you have your local watch lists. So maybe it's a state. The state has be on the lookout for this particular vehicle. Maybe that healthcare institution has access to that. Or then you get to the local level. It's just their own watch list. Hey, and this is actually, we're talking about AI right now. And the conversations around, facial recognition and LPR, it's really becoming a very hot topic because, unfortunately, the rise in violence that's going on. Yep. I'm asking these questions to these healthcare organizations or these retailers about what issues are you actually having? They're having so many issues that they're struggling to actually remember who they've trespassed. Their lists are getting long.
Yeah.
Their databases of, hey, if you see this person, if you see this license plate, be aware of it. But hey, you're a new employee. How are you going to learn all these different license plates? So to the question of sharing lists, yeah, you do need to be cognizant of the type of data you're collecting and how that is managed. So my advice would be speak with your legal team, number one.
100%.
We're not lawyers. But speak with your legal team and analyze what type of data are you collecting? How long are you storing that data? Look at your local laws and jurisdictions. Are you allowed to store that data? And it just popped into my head. I live in the state of New Hampshire, and the state of New Hampshire actually has very strict laws on who can actually utilize license plate recognition technology and how that data can be stored. It actually can only be done by law enforcement agencies in the state of New Hampshire, not public and private entities.
Right. And that's where it gets tricky, I think, for a lot of these hospitals, too, because they've expanded. There's acquisitions. They're providing service to communities, which are much larger than like a state footprint will hold them to. So you got to kind of balance the states, the federal rules. I mean, I've heard of people being able to do stuff with the NCIC watch list, but these people are like unicorns, and like they've gone through all the processes. They have continuous review that's associated with it. I think it's easily thrown around that you want to be able to do that, but I think the legalities around it, I mean, even infrastructure starts to play a factor into these types of things because you have to have a separate infrastructure half the time. And so what I do see some hospitals doing as well, too, is they say, hey, listen, if we need to be on the lookout for something, just give me the plate information and we can maybe share that with law enforcement. But that's a kind of like a manual transition. That's not like truly sharing a database.
Well, and this goes back
practical though.
Right. And this goes back to what is the customer's objective, because it depends on scalability and what they're trying to do. Are you just wanting to do basic license plate recognition and correct me, not recognition, OCR. So object character recognition, just to get an alert. Hey, just notify me if there's a plate that this car comes on campus. We had a disgruntled patient. We have someone that is causing an issue. We have an employee that was let go and they made a threat to the organization. Just let me know. So all that could simply be is your own internal list that is not really shared. It's shared within your own internal agency, and then you're just getting an alert. Hey, we saw this plate on campus. Here's an alert.
Well, and I also think it factors in too is what's the severity of the action that caused for the actual plate to pop in the first place. Because a lot of those lists, you have to actually put in the reason why you are looking at this for this plate. And so like
even in law enforcement, you have to do it.
100%. And like at hospitals, I think that's a really good practice to have as well too, to be able to, show transparency.
Mm-hmm.
I think where people get scared with it is like there's the fear of the nanny state. And this is a very real fear of a lot of people have within their communities. Same as that a hospital is servicing, you're servicing your community. They don't want to feel like their rights are being infringed. But like, hey, listen, you did wrong. This is a very severe issue. And you are going to be held accountable for this. And we also, at a hospital, we have to protect our patients, their customers,
mm-hmm.
the community of which that's occupying their buildings on potentially their private property, and their employees. Where law enforcement has a little different, process to it, where they're like, more protect and serve. They're out there really trying to catch the bad guy in basically a net.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it gets down to, and you handled it very well, and I think you spoke to it very eloquently. It was like where you're saying, what is the purpose?
Mm-hmm.
And I think hospitals should be prepared, especially from that of a programmatic oversight perspective, be able to explain why we're using this technology, how we're using it, and what our review process is.
Yeah.
So because you never want to lose trust within the community. And it's sometimes the benefits of an AI model are just so romantic that it just takes you down this path and you're not prepared to say, well, why? Why did I do this in the first place? And so I kind of see that happening.
Just to even put a little footnote on that, it's, you talk the difference of on-prem versus cloud.
Yes.
There's tons of great cloud solutions out there, but you should be asking the questions. We've talked about this off air a few times, which is HIPAA compliance. Sure. Is your cloud software HIPAA compliant if you're using it?
Do you have a BAA in place? 100%
right.
Business Associates.
It's important, especially in the healthcare field. Yeah.
And again, protecting if you're tying into a greater database and there's correlation, I totally can see that being a thing. But again, showing transparency, being able to communicate things effectively to people when there are questions, cannot be overlooked enough, because
mm-hmm.
it's so easy to just we're gonna share this list and we're gonna share our feeds. Can you share feeds? Do you have the infrastructure in place to accommodate the legalities associated with it? So there's questions. It's by state, most certainly, federal rules and everything along those lines. I think that we have to kind of play ball with if we're going to enable a workflow like this, or a portion of the workflow, because you can still do a lot of wonderful things with a very basic internal watch list.
Yep.
And I think that's where most hospitals are finding themselves a home doing.
Yeah, and we're on the topic of watch list, because that's one of the primary uses. We're using that LPR data, but when we first started this conversation, we're talking about LPR.
Mm-hmm.
But I mentioned, what else? What else are we doing within that LPR solution? And that's really what it's becoming, is how is that data being used? How is this being managed? You have a lot of agencies that are using LPR as that first key indicator. But then, let's say there's an incident that happens on site and you have multiple facilities using LPR technologies to track a pattern of life analysis. Where has this person been? So you may be doing a lot of stuff post.
Yep.
So we had an incident on campus, or hey, we got a notification of a suspicious vehicle. All right, we got the license plate. We got half a license plate.
I was going to say partial reads.
Partial read. So then it starts to go to, all right, well, we know it was a Ford. We know it's red. So we start looking for a red Ford with that partial license plate across all of our institutions. So we go back to the sharing of data. How is that data shared? How can we access that data across multiple sites that, of course, are within our institution,
mm-hmm.
that we own that data? And then look to see, has this vehicle been seen anywhere else? Have they done anything? Take it a step further. Can we pair that LPR camera with a standard security camera? Because did the person get out of the vehicle? Can we identify them? And then you can see how this can scale and just go through this chain to really build a case or just do a real investigation.
Well, and like a partial read, a lot of times may not even be an issue with the cameras. It could be at the license plate itself.
Oh,
I mean, like the thing is completely deteriorated. Yeah, and so that's where a color, make, and model really make a lot of sense, because it's
huge.
More pieces to the puzzle. Also, when people report things too, they're not always reporting it was this license plate. They're going to say, hey, it was a blue sedan. I'm 100% it was a blue sedan. Like, do you know what the manufacturer was? probably a Honda Accord, like probably, maybe a Civic.
Yep.
I don't know what it is. It looked kind of like that.
But if we have an AI solution that actually can capture
Right.
that data and send it, that's part of an LPR solution now.
Well, and alerts in live time are the gold standard here.
Oh, yeah.
And also, I think that we would be remiss if we didn't talk about is what is an appropriate amount of time to get an active response. I think one depends on the severity of the, like, why are we triggering this plate to notify us internally that they're on the property? But, some of these systems take a long time to trigger. I don't know how that's going to be all that wildly beneficial to certain organizations when they're trying to dramatically shorten response gaps. I mean, 5, 15, 20, 30, 40, I mean, what's acceptable? And so that also factors into architecture of some of these systems and the integrations themselves, because you got to get the data fast.
You do, and that you're right. That does come down to network architecture, and fortunately, that's come a long way over the years. Or cellular. Cellular's possible. You have a lot of remote cameras deployed remotely that are connected back and sending data. So that analysis has to be done because you don't want to have a read being done. But that goes back to the scalability. Like, where are you doing that read? Are you doing that on the edge, or do you have to send video back to a server to do processing? That all can impact that response time. We just got to take a look and do a network analysis. What's best for the organization?
You get into the accuracy aspect then too. Like, this is probably a little less. If this was a law enforcement conversation, this might be a far bigger topic because of you are altering decisions potentially of responding officers. It can have relevance in hospital security as well, but the accuracy of the data that you are routing to the human being to make a decision to interact with somebody is very important. So it's not just speed; it's got to be speed and accuracy. You don't want to have the wrong plate pop and it. You go down the path of wrongful identification of something. That's where I think the human must make a decision. And when you're building your program, I think it needs to be spelt out that way.
Yeah, and that goes back to what we've been talking about. What does the end customer need? What is their challenge? Because there are levels of software that can do really great stuff. There are some technology companies out there that allow you to basically build cases with individual information of a particular person or vehicle, and they can just continue to add information to it. So, hey, I get that pop. I'm not just getting, this kind of goes back to, I'm not just getting license plate information anymore. I'm getting a case file on whatever this vehicle is or whatever this person is with clear descriptions. So now I can make a more intelligent and effective decision in real time.
Well, that would help too, especially if you have new security officers covering areas within a different building that they're not normally reporting to within a hospital and things like that. I mean, I think that that's huge.
Right. You look at, all right, we have a block list. All right, I got a screen pop on license plate 459678. All right, what's the response plan?
And not only that, but how bad is this?
Yeah, is this a bad guy, good guy?
Yeah, 100%. Well, okay. I think we've had a really good conversation about workflow and some best practices that we'd like to see. But let's talk about hardware, because I talked about accuracy. We've talked about speed of communication. We've talked about some of the processing, the OCR aspect. And I think it's time we talk to kind of like what, this is not like all access stuff here. This is only some of the access cameras that we have that do LPR. And for those listening in too, like LPR, the way that the shutter operates, especially at night when we're trying to force IR onto a plate to get reflective back, doesn't always lend itself great for pretty pictures for other data. Because it's kind of like a black image and there's just a glowing plate if you're doing it right. And so also angles matter and things like that. But I want you to kind of take us through just so we have a Q18, we have a P15 series, Q63. I want you to kind of take us through, because you've been a huge portion of the builds for this. You've been a very positive impact on these specific custom-tuned cameras for license plate recognition. And I think hardware is often overlooked because people are like, oh yeah, it's a license plate camera. Like a little bit more going on in there to give you that type of information. So
I mean, just to get to a very basic. The very basics of it. I spent a lot of time in the field and spent a lot of time doing LPR demos. And one of the things that you always struggle with is the tuning of the camera, because the camera traditionally needs to be tuned to be able to see a license plate. It needs to be set up at the correct angle. It needs to have the correct settings to it. You mentioned shutter. You have to have the correct shutter speed. You have to set schedules. Well, we took all that into consideration. And what we actually did was we created purpose-tuned cameras. So what is a purpose-tuned camera? The objective of a purpose-tuned camera is I should just be able to take this camera right here out of the box, put it up on a pole or a wall, point it in the right direction, focus it in, and be able to capture a license plate or see a license plate no matter what the lighting conditions are. I don't have to go into it and set camera settings. So the camera that I have in front of me is one of our it's a really great product for capturing license plates. It's our Q1800 series, but it's actually our purpose-tuned version of it. So this camera can actually read license plates upwards over 125 miles an hour. So healthcare, hopefully you're not seeing those types of speeds.
If they're going through the parking lot at a 1 ton and 25, we got a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impressive, also terrible. I'm not condoning. I'm just saying they don't have always that much room to go. But that's getting up there.
Mm-hmm.
But there are sometimes like where there's private roads or
Sure.
they have like connecting bits and pieces where people might
Maybe
be
it's just
doing
the loading dock area, but that's like an open spot.
Basically, it goes
Hopefully
pretty
they're not
darn
going
quick.
20.
Yeah. This is like borderline open road tolling.
Right.
Borderline. I mean, it's getting up there.
Right. But at the end of the day, we have a whole series of purpose-tuned cameras, this being one of them. The one that you have next to you is our P15 series. So this camera is actually not purpose-tuned, but it does have a license plate profile on it. Meaning
this one.
Yeah, that one. So that particular camera, you actually set it into LPR profile mode, and it puts the camera into the right settings, because that camera is actually unique. So we talked earlier about customers wanting to capture more data.
Mm-hmm.
What does every customer want? They want to be able to see the license plate, but they also want all the detail of what's going on around the vehicle.
Yep.
Yeah, and traditionally that requires 2 cameras. That's actually 2 cameras in one. So you get a wide angle 4K, great image quality on one, and the other one is actually a license plate camera that gives you that detail that you
Pop
need.
in the plate.
Right, but it's all built into one housing.
And do these come with just like an AI model on them as well too, because that they can actually like get the like plates like the OCR like we talked about? You can actually see the plate number.
Yeah, so some of them do. We have a camera series. Anytime you see a -3 kit camera, those come preloaded with what we call Access License Plate Verifier. So that's our AI algorithm that allows you to do the object character recognition, make, model, color, to give you that type of detail.
Gotcha.
But this is one of my favorite ones. I'm super excited about this one right here.
This gigantic PTC over my right shoulder.
It's not too big.
It's not that big.
It's a nice guy.
Don't tell Kent that I said that. No, it is a gorgeous PTZ. We put these in all over the place. The Q63 with the laser focus has to be one of my top favorite cameras of all time. I have put so many of these things in. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
But typically when we do PTZs for LPR, like really long distance stuff, we're combating weather. We're combating elements. I mean, that's always going to be a variable.
Yep.
We can't control the weather. But the locking of the aperture has always been an issue because the PTZ's primary function is to be able to look around and focus on things. And so it needs to be dynamically moving, which is typically a problem for a license plate recognition camera. So
yeah, and that's what is really cool about what we're doing with this product, because this product is used so widely in city surveillance. But what else happens in city surveillance?
We put them on the roofs all the time in hospitals.
Yeah,
all the time.
You put them on the roofs. You put them every segment use these.
Yeah, people say they don't need PTZs. I'm like, okay, sure.
But what do they do a lot of the time? They sit there as a static security camera.
That's true. Yeah, if there's not an active something happening, 100%.
Right. So we have a lot of customers that have come to us and they're like, hey, we want to be able to use a PTZ camera for an LPR camera. And what we did is with this particular unit, because this one has our AI capability, so we can run our AI algorithms, this one is going to be able to go into LPR profile mode.
Okay. So that's how you're... Got it. Okay.
Right. So we actually have our engineers worked out the algorithms, the different settings, everything to be able to capture a license plate during a traditional license plate use case application. So now when this camera is out, you're going to be able to set a preset position, which can then be set to be in LPR profile mode.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say that we actually need to go and use that PTZ camera. When I leave that preset position, it's going to go into the forensic mode. So now you're going to get that beautiful image quality that you would expect out of this camera. But this camera is loaded with so much great technology, as you mentioned, that why not use it for a multi-purpose use?
Well, multitaskers are hospital security program's best friend.
Right.
They got to be able to do more than one thing with it. And so that is, that I think it's really cool. I mean, obviously, you're going to get the benefit of a pretty long telephoto lens as well. I mean, you're able to get out there a little bit.
You are, but one of the things we've been talking about is, one camera that has multiple views. So we're talking about the P15 that has 2 views. This particular unit can actually pair with one of our Q6000 series, which can give you 4 individual views out of that unit.
Okay.
So let me talk about that. So, this is actually big in healthcare because in parking lots, you want to get multiple views, all out of one network drop, one camera. So that particular camera series, you can pair this with what we call our spaceship camera.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, what I'm getting at is the PTZ can be dedicated for license plate recognition, while the other 4 sensors are capturing the detail that you need. And when you need to move the PTZ, you move it.
Yeah. You understand that I'm moving this because I need to go find something right
Yeah,
now.
of course.
I think it's awesome. I mean, we are showing some of this. We haven't even brought in the radar fusion camera where we're doing
so much tech.
Speed of travel with license plates.
You want to talk speed and wrong way detection? I can go into that.
We'll
we'll save that for another podcast.
You want to do it for another podcast?
Yeah, we'll save it for another one. We'll come back.
Okay. All right. So as I say,
don't take so long next time.
Okay. All right. Well, it's on me, I guess. But I can feel it's getting put on me. No, but the fusion aspects, we didn't really get into like a cellular. Like there's some other manufacturers out there that have cellular powered ones that have connectivity. Great tools.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything bad about them. These are the ones that we brought on just to talk about because they're also kind of the new fun things that tell people about. So it's there's obviously a ton of power. I also think sometimes people miss that they can integrate traditional IP cameras into some of those systems. So, life might be easy depending on what you're trying to do and what you already have for infrastructure. So,
well, it goes back to the value of what we call the open platform. Is we have a lot of great technology partners where they can potentially use these products here in front of you, but load their applications on top of them. That way you can use their back-end software, but load their license plate AI software on our product itself. So working within that ecosystem, I go back to what we've been talking about. What is the end customer's challenges and needs?
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Steve, once again for coming on. And
Thanks
you
for having
set
me.
yourself up for a 3rd episode.
Coming back.
You're coming back.
Fusion cameras, baby.
And so fusion cameras are going to be a hot topic. That is true. So thank you all for listening into this. Greatly appreciate you staying with us. If you find this type of content valuable, feel free to check out the other AI in healthcare or Access Technologies in Healthcare podcast episodes on Access's YouTube channel on Access USA. Thank you all, and talk soon.